Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and all eyes are on them? It's like they have this magnetic energy, this unspoken command that says, "I'm worth noticing." And then there are the rest, the ones who blend into the background, almost as if they were a part of the furniture. Is it luck, charisma, some secret code we all missed? Nope, it's none of that. It's habits. Habits that most of us don't even realize are happening right in front of us. Today, I'm breaking it all down. The rare, borderline controversial habits that can transform the way people see you. These aren't about faking it. They're about owning it. Some will make you nod, some might make you cringe, and a few, well, they'll probably challenge everything you thought you knew about being likable. Let's jump in. Storytelling. That's where it all starts. Why? Because storytelling isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. Humans are wired for stories. It's practically in our DNA. But here's the twist. Most people are awful at it. Sorry, but it's true. They ramble, overshare, or leave out all the juicy details that make a story worth listening to. So, how do you get it right? Simple. Your story needs to make people feel something. Emotions are the bridge that connects you to your audience, and without them, your words are just noise. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was at one of those dreadful networking events. You know, the ones where everyone's trying to one-up each other with boring elevator pitches. This big-shot CEO walked up to me and asked, "What's something unique about you?" My brain froze. I could have talked about my work, my achievements, or my plans, but instead I told him about a time I accidentally wandered into the wrong wedding and ended up giving a toast. The entire group erupted in laughter. Guess what? That one story earned me more connections than any rehearsed pitch ever could. Why? Because it was memorable, it was relatable, it made them feel something. Now, here's where it gets a little spicy. Storytelling isn't always about accuracy, it's about impact. No, I'm not saying you should lie, but do you need to embellish a little for the sake of entertainment? Absolutely. Did the wedding story have some extra flair added over the years? Maybe. But people don't remember facts. They remember how you made them feel. That's the magic of a good story. It sticks. Think about it. The best people in your life probably aren't the ones with the craziest lives. They're the ones who know how to make their experiences resonate. It's not about climbing Mount Everest or surviving a shark attack. Even a failed recipe or a bizarre conversation with your neighbor can be legendary if you tell it right. The key is to add drama, suspense, and humor, then wrap it all up with a killer punchline. Here's your homework. Take something simple that happened to you this week and turn it into a story. Add a twist, some humor, and an ending that leaves people wanting more. Try it out at your next gathering or even in a casual chat. Watch how people lean in. When you become the person with the best stories, you'll be unforgettable. Now, let's talk about something a little subtler: laughter. It's the social glue that connects us, makes us feel safe, and lets people know we belong. But too much of it, that can get weird, fast. Ever met someone who laughs at everything? Yeah, we all have. And let's be honest, it doesn't come off as cool and confident. It comes off as nervous or insincere, like they're trying way too hard to fit in. I used to be that person. There was this crush I had back in college, and every time they said something even remotely funny, I'd laugh like it was the best joke I'd ever heard. Did it make them like me more? Nope. Instead, I became the go-to laugh track for their ego. It wasn't cute. It was exhausting. On the flip side, not laughing enough makes you seem cold and unapproachable. The trick is to find the balance. Laugh when it's genuine, and let silence speak when it's not. There's power in not laughing sometimes. Imagine someone cracks a joke that's mean-spirited or just plain bad. Staying silent sends a stronger message than fake laughter ever could. I remember sitting in a meeting where someone made a joke at a co-worker's expense. Everyone gave this awkward little chuckle, but I didn't. Later, the co-worker came up to me and said, "Thank you for not laughing. That meant a lot." Respect earned, without saying a word. Laughter isn't just about reacting to humor. It's about showing who you are. Laughing authentically signals that you're present, in tune, and open to connection. Forced laughter, that just screams insecurity. So here's the deeper truth. Laughter is a reflection of your perspective on life. It's not about pleasing others. It's about finding what genuinely makes you smile and sharing that with the world. The next time someone makes a joke, pause for a second. Ask yourself, do I really find this funny? If the answer is yes, laugh like you mean it. If not, hold back. You'll notice something interesting. People will start taking you more seriously. Your laughter will become rare, genuine, and earned. And if you need a place to start, laugh at yourself. Life's too short to be too serious. Just don't overdo it. Unless, of course, you're watching cat videos. In that case, go wild. Let's dive into something that feels small, but carries enormous weight. Compliments. Done right, a genuine compliment can light up someone's entire day and leave them thinking, wow, this person really sees me. Done wrong? You risk coming off as fake, manipulative, or worst of all, forgettable. And let's be honest, nobody wants to be forgettable. Compliments are more than just social pleasantries. They're an art form. But here's the problem. Most people aren't even trying. They're tossing out weak generic lines like nice shirt or cool vibes without a second thought. What does that even mean? Compliments like that don't stick. They're filler. And if you're using them to fill awkward silences, you might as well say nothing at all. The key to a powerful compliment is specificity. It's not about the obvious, it's about noticing the details. Think about the last time someone genuinely complimented you on something unexpected, like your attention to detail or the way you handled a tough situation. Didn't it hit differently? That's because it made you feel seen, not just glanced at. A generic "you're great" doesn't do that. But I really admire how patient you were in that meeting. It kept everyone calm. Hits like magic. A few years ago, I worked with someone named Sarah. She wasn't the loudest or flashiest person in the office, but she had this knack for writing emails that were so clear and polished they could have been framed. One day, I told her, "Sarah, your emails are so well written, they make me want to print them out and hang them on my wall." She laughed, but then she got quiet and said, "Wow, nobody's ever noticed that before." After that, she started contributing more in meetings, walking with more confidence, and became someone I genuinely enjoyed collaborating with. That's the power of a real compliment. It makes people feel valued. But let's get controversial for a second. Not everyone deserves a compliment. Yeah, I said it. If someone hasn't put in the effort, why are we handing out gold stars like participation trophies? Compliments should be earned. Save them for when they count. And when you do give one, make it count. Don't just say, "Nice haircut." Say, "Your new haircut really frames your face beautifully." See the difference? One's a throwaway, the other feels intentional. Now let's address a common mistake. Giving compliments just to get something in return. People can smell ulterior motives from a mile away. If your "I love your shoes" is immediately followed by the way, can you help me move this weekend?" Guess what? You've just lost all credibility. That's not a compliment. It's a strategy. Nobody likes being played. And here's another thing. Compliments aren't just about appearance. In fact, the best ones go deeper. Instead of saying, "You look nice," try, I really admire how thoughtful you were in handling that tough conversation." Complimenting someone's actions or character is far more impactful than complimenting their looks. It shows you're paying attention to who they are, not just how they present themselves. But don't overdo it. Compliments that come too frequently or seem too rehearsed can backfire. They start to feel less like genuine admiration and more like flattery for flattery's sake. You want your compliments to feel rare, authentic, and meaningful. That's what makes them stick. So here's your challenge. The next time you're with someone, look for something specific and meaningful to compliment. It could be how they handled a situation, the effort they put into something, or even how they made you feel. And don't just throw it out there. Deliver it with sincerity. Watch how they light up. It's a small act that creates a big ripple effect. Now, let's talk about something even more uncomfortable: owning your mistakes. We all mess up, big time, little time, all the time. But here's the deal. What separates people who command respect from those who fade into the background isn't their ability to avoid mistakes. It's how they handle them. Dodging responsibility or pointing fingers doesn't save you. It sinks you. On the other hand, owning your mistakes quickly and confidently can actually make people respect you more. Let me share a story. Early in my career, I missed an important deadline. Instead of owning up to it, I blamed email issues. Did I get away with it? Sure, for a moment. But over time, my credibility tanked. People aren't stupid. They notice patterns. And when they see you dodging blame repeatedly, trust evaporates. Flash forward to a few years later. I double-booked myself for 2 big commitments: a work presentation and my best friend's birthday dinner. Disaster, right? Instead of coming up with excuses, I called my boss and owned up. I explained the situation and asked if we could reschedule the presentation. I also promised my friend I'd make it up to her. The result? Both respected me more for my honesty. Turns out people don't expect perfection, they just expect accountability. When you own your mistakes, you take control of the narrative. Instead of letting the mistake define you, you define how it's addressed and resolved. And here's a twist. Owning your mistakes also creates a culture of trust. It shows others that it's okay to be human, to admit when they're wrong. That kind of vulnerability isn't weak, it's empowering. But let me add this: don't overdo it. You don't need to turn every small slip-up into a dramatic apology. Keep it simple. Say, "I messed up. Here's how I'm fixing it." Then move on. The faster you address it, the less power it holds over you and the situation. Owning your mistakes isn't just about salvaging your reputation. It's about showing people that you're human, that you're real, and that you're willing to take responsibility. That kind of integrity isn't just rare, it's magnetic. So, the next time you mess up, and let's be honest, it's going to happen, own it, fix it, and maybe even laugh about it later. Because in the end, it's not the mistake people remember, it's how you handled it. Let's get into something simple but incredibly powerful: learning people's names and actually using them. It might sound basic, but let me tell you, this is one of the most underrated habits out there. Remembering someone's name is like giving them a little verbal hug. It's saying, "I see you, you matter." But here's the controversial twist. Most people don't even try. They shrug it off with, "Oh, I'm just bad with names," like it's a genetic flaw. Let's call it what it is: laziness. Think about it. How do you feel when someone remembers your name, especially when you don't expect them to? It feels good, doesn't it? Like you're not just another face in the crowd. That's because a name isn't just a label, it's tied to someone's identity. When you remember and use it, you're acknowledging that person's existence in a way that feels personal and meaningful. A few years ago, I worked at a massive company with hundreds of employees. There was this security guard, Jim, who greeted everyone with a smile every single day. Most people barely noticed him, just a quick nod and on their way. But I made it a point to say, "Good morning, Jim," every time I walked past. The first time, he looked surprised. After that, he started lighting up whenever he saw me. Fast forward a few months, I locked myself out of my office. Guess who went out of his way to help me? Jim. That small connection, just using his name, made all the difference. Here's the thing, when you don't bother to learn someone's name, it sends a subtle but powerful message. You don't care. It might not be intentional, but that's how it feels. And if you can't even remember this one small detail about someone, how can you expect them to respect or connect with you? Let's be real, forgetting names happens. We've all been in that awkward situation where you're mid-conversation, scrambling to remember if it's Steve, Stan, or Sam. It's uncomfortable, but there's an easy fix. Just ask, seriously. A simple, "I'm sorry, can you remind me of your name?" is so much better than avoiding it altogether. People appreciate the effort, and it shows you're trying. Here's how you can get better at this. First, repeat the name as soon as you hear it. "Nice to meet you, Priya." That locks it into your brain. Second, associate it with something memorable. "Priya loves pizza." "Priya pizza." Done. Third, use the name casually during the conversation. "So, Priya, what do you think about this?" Finally, write it down or text it to yourself afterward if you're worried about forgetting. Using someone's name isn't just a trick to make them like you. It's a way of building real connections. It's a small act of humanity in a world where people often feel overlooked. And honestly, isn't that what we all want? To be seen, to matter, to be remembered. Now, let's shift gears and talk about opinions. Yes, opinions. The good, the bad, and the awkward. In a world where people are terrified of saying the wrong thing, it's easy to default to polite nodding and generic agreements. But here's the hard truth. If you don't have opinions, you don't stand out. Being a human echo chamber doesn't make you likable, it makes you invisible. That said, having opinions isn't about steamrolling conversations or shoving your beliefs down people's throats. It's about finding the balance, being confident but kind, assertive but open-minded. People respect those who can articulate what they think without turning every conversation into a debate. Let me tell you about a time I failed at this. During a group dinner, someone asked, "What's your favorite movie?" I panicked. I didn't want to say the wrong thing or be judged, so I blurted out, "Oh, I like everything." The conversation moved on without me, and I felt invisible. A few weeks later, the same group brought up The Princess Bride. This time I jumped in with, "That's my favorite movie of all time. Here's why." Suddenly, we were in a lively discussion, and I was part of it. Lesson learned. Having an opinion makes you memorable. But here's where it gets tricky. Disagreeing with people. It's going to happen. The key is to disagree with grace. Don't roll your eyes or say, "You're wrong." Instead, try something like, "I see where you're coming from, but here's how I look at it." You're sharing your perspective without making the other person feel attacked. That's the kind of conversation people respect. Your opinions are a reflection of who you are, what you value, what you care about, how you see the world. When you share them thoughtfully, you give others permission to do the same. You create space for real, meaningful conversations, not just surface-level chit-chat. But here's the twist. Having an opinion doesn't mean you're always right. Being open to learning, to saying, "You know what, that's a good point," shows strength, not weakness. It reminds people that conversations are about growth, not just proving a point. Here's how to nail this. First, know your stuff. If you're going to have an opinion, make sure it's informed. Second, pick your battles. Not every hill is worth dying on. And third, deliver your opinion with curiosity. Ask questions like, "Why do you think that?" or "What's your take on this?" that turns potential clashes into meaningful discussions. So, here's your challenge. The next time someone asks for your opinion, speak up. Whether it's your favorite ice cream flavor or a big issue like climate change, share your thoughts. But do it with kindness, curiosity, and an open mind. You'll find that people don't just hear you, they respect you, and that's how connections are built. Let's talk about something that most people completely underestimate: the power of showing up as your true self. Authenticity is one of the rarest and most magnetic traits you can have. In a world where everyone is trying to fit in, stand out, or craft some kind of image, being genuine is like a breath of fresh air. But here's the thing: authenticity doesn't mean you have to overshare or wear your heart on your sleeve. It means aligning your words, actions, and values so they all tell the same story, the real you. Think about this. How many times have you caught yourself nodding along to something you didn't agree with, or laughing at a joke you didn't find funny just to avoid being that person? Or maybe you've pretended to like something you didn't just to fit in. It's normal. We've all done it. But the problem is, every time you do that, you chip away at your own authenticity. And here's the kicker: people can sense it. Even if they don't consciously realize it, they can feel when you're not being real. And that erodes trust and respect. I used to be a chronic people pleaser. I'd agree with everyone, go along with everything, and say whatever I thought people wanted to hear. It was exhausting. But worse than that, it made me feel invisible. Sure, I was easy to get along with, but nobody really knew me because I wasn't showing them who I truly was. One day I decided to stop. I started small, sharing my real opinions on little things like movies or books, letting my quirks show, and not pretending to enjoy things I didn't. At first, it was terrifying. What if people didn't like the real me? But you know what happened? The right people started gravitating toward me, and the wrong ones. They faded away. And I was okay with that. Here's the truth about authenticity. It won't make everyone like you, but it will make the right people respect and connect with you. Being real is an invitation to others to do the same. It's saying, "This is who I am. Take it or leave it." And that kind of honesty is refreshing. It's what builds trust. And trust? That's the foundation of every meaningful relationship, whether it's personal or professional. But let me be clear. Being authentic doesn't mean being unfiltered or careless with your words. It doesn't mean blurting out every thought or opinion without regard for others' feelings. Authenticity is about being thoughtful, intentional, and true to yourself while still being kind and respectful. It's about striking that balance between honesty and empathy. Now let's address something people often confuse with authenticity: vulnerability. The two are closely connected, but they're not the same thing. Vulnerability is about showing your humanity, your struggles, your fears, your imperfections. It's not easy, and it takes courage, but it's incredibly powerful. When you're vulnerable, you create a space for real connection. You're saying, "I'm not perfect, and that's okay." And guess what? That makes people feel like they don't have to be perfect around you either. It's liberating, it's bonding, it's real. I'll never forget a time when vulnerability changed the dynamic of an entire team I was working with. We were under a lot of pressure and tensions were high. Everyone was putting on this facade of having it all together, but underneath, we were all stressed and struggling. One day during a meeting, I decided to break the ice. I admitted that I was feeling overwhelmed and unsure if I could meet the deadlines. The room went quiet, and I thought I'd made a mistake. But then, one by one, my colleagues started opening up about their own challenges. That meeting turned into one of the most productive and supportive discussions we'd ever had. It wasn't about venting, it was about being real. And from that point on, our team operated on a whole new level of trust and respect. But here's the thing: Vulnerability, like authenticity, needs boundaries. Not everyone deserves access to your most personal thoughts or struggles. Being selective about who you share with isn't about being fake. It's about protecting your energy and building trust with the right people. Vulnerability without discernment can leave you feeling exposed and misunderstood. So, choose wisely. Another key habit that often gets overlooked is patience. Specifically, the kind of patience that allows you to play the long game. In a world of instant gratification, this is a rare skill. Most people want quick results, fast feedback, and immediate validation. But here's the thing. Respect doesn't happen overnight. It's built over time, through consistent actions and choices. Think about the people you respect the most. Chances are they've earned it not because of one grand gesture, but because of who they are consistently. They show up, they deliver, they treat others with kindness and integrity, even when no one's watching. That kind of consistency requires patience. It means being willing to put in the work, day after day, even when the results aren't immediate. Patience is especially important when it comes to relationships. Whether it's with friends, family, or colleagues, trust and respect take time to grow. You can't rush them. You have to be willing to invest in the process, to show up, to listen, to support, and to prove yourself over and over again. And yes, that can be frustrating. It can feel like you're putting in more than you're getting out. But if you're consistent, if you're authentic, if you're patient, the payoff is worth it. Because the connections you build on that foundation will be real, lasting, and meaningful. Let me share a story. I once had a colleague who was incredibly talented, but also incredibly impatient. They wanted respect, recognition, and leadership opportunities right away. And when they didn't get them, they became frustrated and started cutting corners. They didn't realize that respect isn't about talent alone. It's about how you handle yourself, especially when things don't go your way. Meanwhile, another colleague, who was just as talented but far more patient, quietly put in the work. They supported the team, stayed consistent, and didn't demand respect. They earned it. Guess who ended up becoming a leader? Patience isn't passive. It's active. It's about staying the course, even when it feels like no one's noticing, because eventually they will. Lastly, let's talk about gratitude. It's a habit that's so simple, so easy, and yet so often overlooked. Showing gratitude isn't just about saying thank you. It's about acknowledging the people who contribute to your life, no matter how big or small their role may be. It's about making people feel valued and appreciated. And when you do that, it not only strengthens your relationships, it elevates your own character. Here's the thing about gratitude. It's contagious. When you express it, it inspires others to do the same. It creates a ripple effect that spreads positivity and connection. And in a world where people are often quick to criticize and slow to appreciate, gratitude stands out. It makes people feel seen, respected, and valued. A few years ago, I started a simple practice that changed the way I interact with others. At the end of each day, I'd think of 3 people I was grateful for and send them a quick message, a text, an email, or even just a note. It could be as simple as, "Hey, I really appreciated your help on that project today," or "Thanks for making me laugh during that meeting. It made my day." The responses I got were incredible. People were genuinely touched, and it deepened my relationships in ways I didn't expect. Gratitude isn't just good for others, it's good for you. It shifts your perspective. It makes you more aware of the good things in your life, the people who support you, and the moments that matter. And when you focus on those things, it changes how you show up in the world. You become more positive, more present, and more intentional. And that, my friend, is magnetic. So as we wrap this up, remember this. Respect isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up consistently, owning your mistakes, valuing others, and staying true to yourself. It's about playing the long game, building connections that matter, and leaving people better than you found them. None of this happens overnight, but that's the beauty of it. Every day, every choice, every interaction is an opportunity to level up, not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by becoming more of who you truly are. So go out there, take these habits to heart, and watch how the world starts to see you differently. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more people trying to impress. It needs more people willing to connect, to care, and to lead by example. And that, my friend, is where real respect begins.